Welcome to the Summercast, a podcast aimed at making fundamentalism great again by applying confessional Baptist doctrine to all of life.
Welcome to the Summercast, guys. I cannot believe that I'm back on the channel, finally, again. It's been a long time, and my wife kindly reminded me that last time I made a video, I had a haircut. The last video I made on here, I was well groomed, and I'm not so much right now. So I'll have to get a haircut either today or tomorrow or Saturday, sometime before Sunday, because if I show up on Sunday with hair like this, my congregation is bound to make fun of me. Anyways, guys, I'm glad to be back. It has been crazy politically. I don't even really have a goal for this show. I really just wanted to come on here and talk about what has been going on. So obviously we've had a presidential debate, and then we've had a vice presidential debate. And that, from the time of the making of this video, happened just yesterday. And I have to say that the vice presidential debate was much better, more clearer than the presidential debate. And a lot of that, of course, I have to grant, was due to the coaching behind the presidential debate. I know Trump is aggressive anyway, but then I believe it was Fox News had Rudy Giuliani on, who's been involved in Trump's debate prep. And Giuliani said, I was one of the ones that actually told him to kind of box Biden into the corner there. So there's a lot of coaching that goes on that Trump's campaign management encourages. But anyway, that debate, as far as I was concerned, was a wash. The vice presidential debate was awesome, and it was awesome because Pence was so clear. He was very presidential, vice presidential. He was unemotional except when he needed to be. He did not get flustered. He was very polished. I mean, it looked like the guy was reading off of a teleprompter, but he wasn't. So he did a very good job. Kamala Harris, on the other hand, I guess if you want to talk about professionalism, she was at least better than her running mate. But she was marketing Joe Biden the whole time. And there were points at which Pence did that with Trump, but it wasn't just a constant Joe this, Joe that, or Don this or Don that, on the part of Pence. I feel like Pence was much nearer to the point than Kamala Harris was. Here's what I want to talk about. What is a Christian's responsibility coming up to the polls this November? Maybe some of you have already voted through mail-in ballots or whatever, but what is your biblical responsibility when considering the political candidates this time around, or any time for that matter? Now, I think that, now let me start here. Does a Christian have to vote? Does a Christian have to vote? The answer to that, I think, is a little bit more complicated than sometimes people make it. I don't think a Christian has to vote, biblically speaking, for the right reasons. Okay, if it's a conscience issue, right? I don't believe that a Christian has to cast a vote. All right. But to just not vote just because, or just because you don't prefer one candidate over the other, or just because you don't prefer perhaps the slightly less desirable character of one candidate despite his policies over the other, I don't think those are good reasons. I don't think those are good reasons to not vote, okay? So I don't think those are good reasons to object to the system that's in place, which allows our country really to function correctly. All right, now, the reason I say that, and the reason I believe that there is a responsibility for the Christian to vote, unless otherwise dictated by conscience, is because Romans 13 makes us, subjects Christians to the government. Now, we don't live under a crown This is not a monarchy. It's not an oligarchy, and it's not supposed to be an aristocracy. It is a democratic republic. So how does Romans 13 apply to people who live in a democratic republic? Well, consider the mandate in Romans 13 that we all be subject to governing authority. What is the governing authority in this nation? Well, I can tell you the principle of it is the electorate. It is the electorate. It's the people who elect elected officials who then administrate our government. Okay, so our governing authority, I guess, when practically speaking, is going to be the people. Now, theoretically, the governing authority is actually a document which guides the process of government and how government is formed in this country, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so statically, really, the governing authority is the Constitution, but the people operating according to the Constitution is the principle of any government that's formed from election to election, right? So the people decide who is going to lead this nation, especially presidentially and vice presidentially. And so that's very important to consider. You know, that's a very big difference between us living in the United States of America and first century Christians living under the empiricism of Rome, okay, and Caesar and all that. So that's a variable that's oftentimes overlooked. So people will say, well, you don't have to vote anytime ever, just if you don't want to. Well, I don't think that's biblical, because you are the principal of the government in this nation. And if you do not act like the principal of the government in this nation, you are neglecting your responsibility according to Romans 13. That is, that there would be a functioning government element in this nation, and that governing element would be righteous and moral and representative of the will of God. And so I don't think that you can just not vote. I don't think you're free biblically just to not vote. You might be free in this country to not vote, but biblically I think the Christian's conscience is bound to vote if there are not other moral or ethical issues that bind their conscience, which prevent them from casting a ballot in good faith, okay, in either direction. Okay, so that kind of answers the question of should we vote. I think the answer is a little bit more complicated than we make it sometimes. The other question is it sin if a Christian votes for one party or the other? In other words, can it be sin to vote for the Democratic candidate, or can it be sin to vote for the Republican candidate? Is it sin to vote for the Democrat candidate right now? Yes, unequivocally. Unequivocally, it's sin to vote for the Democrat candidate right now. The reason for that is obviously manifold, and there are various policies within that platform that make it impossible for a Christian, an Orthodox Christian, to cast a ballot toward that direction in any moral or ethical way. All right, and of course, abortion is a big one. Abortion is a big one, and there are many other policies, socialistic policies, and things that are anti-biblical or satanic, and indeed violate the very bedrock of Christian morality, as seen in places like, I don't know, the Eighth Commandment: "Thou shalt not steal." These people want to effectively steal. They just want to use the government to do it and enforce it. And because it's the government doing it, it's not considered theft by many, but really that's just an arbitrary distinction or separation. So yeah, of course, the people who are like, well, I'm just not voting at all because Trump is also a terrible candidate, they may have a point in some regards in terms of moral character or whatever, but the question becomes the policy, all right? And then the question becomes, under whose leadership, the Democrat or the Republican, under whose leadership do we have a better opportunity as a church and as a pro-life contingent to actually reverse Roe v. Wade and then begin fighting at the state level against abortion, as we've been doing these many years? Under whose leadership is that most safely to do, or under whose leadership is that most probable to be successful? Is the question. Now, some will say, well, Trump hasn't really done anything for the pro-life movement. He's pandered to the base, and he's not eliminated or abolished abortion altogether. Well, that's very much true. Trump is and his administration is obviously incrementalist, and so you're not going to see an abolished abortion in toto. Probably not even within the next 4-year presidential term if he gets reelected. And so, the people who object to voting for Trump will say, well, I can't vote for Trump because he's not going to abolish abortion because Trump's an incrementalist. Okay, step out of your bubble for a minute and ask the question, is it a better situation under a Trump administration than it would be under a Biden administration? Think of all the goods under the Trump administration that we might have. A better opportunity to approach the abortion issue as a free republic. A better opportunity to preach the gospel at abortion mills without being accosted by police. A better opportunity to vote for policies and be represented by people who will vote for policies at a higher federal level that are detrimental to abortion in this country. I mean, there's tons of goods under the Trump administration that will be utterly erased under a Biden administration. And I know that the saying, well, a vote not cast is a vote cast in the opposite direction. Well, it's kind of true. Like in this situation, if you do not vote for the better policy, and I'm not saying it's a perfect policy, but if you do not vote for the better policy, the lack of your vote becomes detrimental to that better policy, right? Because that policy has less support. And if that policy has less support, the other bad policy that erases anything that might be good under this administration, the bad policy has a better chance at winning, right? Has a better opportunity to come in and steal the election and win the election. Okay, so just get out of the kind of bubble that you've been told to be in, which consists of a lot of virtue signaling. I mean, you're never going to vote for a morally perfect candidate. You're never going to vote for a morally perfect candidate. But you are going to vote. And it happens all the time. Every election, there's an opportunity to vote for better policy than either what came before or either what is trying to take the election and eventually sit in the White House. So, and in this election, truth be told, the stakes are really higher than ever. And so I do think that there is even kind of more of an obligation or a responsibility of the Christian to step up and turn out in order to support better policy over policy that is going to eliminate any and every opportunity Christians have in this country to save the lives of the unborn. And I know there's a good intention in abstinence from voting. I know there's a good intention behind that. I know that there is some perceived virtue in that, and that it's not a bad intention or evil in any sense. But the fact of the matter is that oftentimes the road to failure is paved with good intentions. I think someone said the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And I mean, look, you are abstaining from voting in an election where you potentially have the power as a voter to sway this nation toward better policy that's more conducive to saving more lives at the political level. Okay, so just consider that. I mean, there are real living little babies who are in their mother's tummies right now, who may be killed within the next 8 months, 7 months, through a late-term abortion or something like that. Wouldn't it be better if in November 3rd we elected a president who is actively arguing for and working in order to get like pro-life justices on the Supreme Court, for example? I mean, look, if this administration loses, the only other alternative is going to be a packed court, a change of the rules which allow their policies, which are bad, evil, wicked, satanic policies, to move forward at a rate we have never seen before. Okay? So think about this morally, think about it ethically, think about where the good is and where the bad is. Consider the fact that you do have a moral obligation, according to Romans 16, as it's applied to a democratic republic, to vote and to vote for good policy, unless otherwise instructed or informed by conscience. I understand that sometimes there are decisions that are just you can't adjudicate between them in terms of what's better. For example, if we had two Bidens up there, like there's just, it's a draw. I wouldn't vote. But in this case, there's obviously good policy versus bad policy. Okay. Now, in terms of character, you have bad character versus bad character, right? So, but we don't really, when you vote for the president, you don't vote for character. This is the first time I've ever seen in my short life character elevated to an actual voting issue. And that's in large part because of the media. Okay, I understand character means something, but the kind of character we're talking about here is a very external character, a character that is perhaps very pragmatic, very business oriented, has had some sexually immoral problems in the past, but right now you are seeing a person in the White House who, in terms of policy, actually demonstrates somewhat of a decent, at least political character. And so, obviously, he's not a Christian. He's not a Christian. But in the United States of America, rarely do we get the opportunity to vote for an actual Christian. And I would be surprised if we could even know if they were an actual Christian, the way the media reports and how easy it is to mess up, verbally speaking, when being interviewed and things like that, the pressure that goes on and all that. Now, I'm not standing up for Trump's moral imperfections by any means. The man's not a Christian. The man needs to repent and believe on the Lord Jesus Christ for his salvation. And he's got a lot to repent of, just like we all do. But the fact of the matter is his policy is absolutely superior to what is being pushed with the potential Biden administration. So think about those things. It's worth thinking about. Don't just cast it off. Don't just forget about it. Don't just not vote. Think about it. Romans 13. How does that apply to the American population, right? Not how does it apply to the Puritan population in 17th century England. How does it apply to American population here in the United States of America in a democratic republic? We don't live under a crown. Okay, we don't live under a monarch. We don't live under an aristocracy. We don't, as much as the Dems would love to see us live under an aristocracy, we don't. We don't live under an oligarchy either. So just remember your biblical responsibility. Think about this biblically. Ask yourself where the good is, where the bad is, because honestly, there's not a whole lot of good in the competing campaigns. So, all right, God bless you guys. Hope this was helpful to you. If you found it helpful, please press the subscribe button down below. Click the bell for continued notifications. Give me a thumbs up if you like the video, thumbs down if you did not. God bless you guys. Have a wonderful day.